Hey guys, it's Daniel, licensed therapist. Fat people. Apparently, you can say fat again. You remember when saying fat made you just this horribly offensive person? And then you had to say obese, and then the goalposts moved, and then if you said obese, you're this terrible person? Well, guess what? Fat.
Back on the menu, boys!
But like I was saying, fat people, they're such a mystery. Actually, not really. It's pretty straightforward.
You just like eating, don't you?
But I would say that psychologically, it can get a little bit complicated. Fortunately for us, fit people and fat people gloriously collide in this video by Jubilee. Let's see what these two very different groups make of fat people. If you like this kind of content, consider liking and subscribing. Let's get on with it.
My name's John. I host the Radical Empathy podcast. I used to direct episodes of Middle Ground, but I'll now be moderating today's discussion between jacked men and fat men. Our first prompt is, I have felt disgusted looking at a fat body. Can our agreeers please step forward? Whoever feels compelled to start us off.
Well, it's unacceptable to be fat.
Okay, that's a great start. I mean, I know why you say that, but it's one of those things where, do you know why you're saying that?
Yes, because I've been fat before and I lost the weight.
Well, me too. I've been fat my whole life. I've been way skinnier than I am now, and I've been way heavier than I am now. Was I less valuable at one point in there?
Well, I mean, you can make an argument that you're less valuable when you're fatter because you drain resources, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I mean, in general, being fat is unacceptable because you control every single morsel of food that goes into your mouth.
Okay.
It shows a lack of discipline, it shows a lack of character, it shows a lack of temperance, and when you're fat, it's an outward manifestation of your inadequacies.
Wow. Okay, one thing's crystal clear is this guy Myron from the Fresh and Fit podcast has zero sympathy for fat people. And although I may not agree 100% with what he's saying, and especially with the way that he says it, I have to say it's refreshing to see a guy just say it how he sees it. He's not mincing his words. And although maybe I take exception to the way he's saying it, like I said, I do feel like there's a little bit of disdain in his voice. If I look at his words, he's not wrong, but I do think that he is missing something because he has a pretty simple explanation as to what's going on with fat people. And I just don't think that that explanation is good enough to cover all fat people. Let's keep going.
When I see somebody who's 500 or 600 pounds, all I can think of is, why do they care so little about their health that they can do this, allow themselves to gain that much weight, knowing it's taken 20, 30, 40 years off their life? I just can't imagine not wanting to live that badly.
I understand that. No, it's I've definitely felt disgusted looking at my own body and looking at other fat bodies in my life. A lot of the disgust I felt looking at people was me feeling disgusted with myself and then projecting that feeling onto other people. And I don't think anyone on either side will disagree that health is important. I know that my own mental health was way worse when I was spending every fixate of my life trying to get smaller and trying to be thinner.
I don't think there's anyone that can look at somebody 500, 600, 700 pounds and not think, wow, what have they done? And not be disgusted. Like, how can you not? I just can't understand.
You can't
nobody
assume that
thinking
everyone
that.
has the same opinion though, because unfortunately, some people have emotional stuff that happened, traumatic stuff that's happened, so you can't discount and just say, oh, because they're fat.
Boo-hoo, man. Like, there's way worse stuff going out in the world versus
Absolutely.
people saying, oh my God, I'm sad, I'm gonna eat some ice cream. It's like, no, dude, it's like, you're fat, you made that decision, you live in the best country ever. If you live in a civilized first world country where you have electricity, internet power, etc., you deserve to be bullied. It's ridiculous to me that we have all these fat people running around. Meanwhile, people are being bombed in Gaza. It's ridiculous. We are so privileged here in the United States and in the West in general. When I see a fat person, I'm like, wow, you got the gift of life. You got the gift of being in a developed country, and you're a fat POS talking about body positivity on TikTok? What the hell is going on
But now
here?
your segment.
Like I said, once again, Myron has zero sympathy for fat people. But what this guy in dreads is saying, I feel like he has a point. There are definite psychological explanations as to why people are fat. And an explanation and an excuse. There's a fine line between those two things. But when I look at what this guy is saying, I don't think that he's making an excuse. I feel like he's giving an explanation. So I give this guy credit for what he's saying, and I agree with what he's saying.
Because not everyone thinks like that.
No, we need to bring shaming back.
Okay.
We need to bring shaming back in so many other regards besides obesity. We need to do it with sluts. We need to shame fat people. We need to shame everybody when they fuck up. Because shame has been one of the strongest defenses against degeneracy and human fuck-ups.
You had a personal experience you wanted to share. You said you used to be overweight. Now you're not.
Oh yeah. So I did an experiment back in like 2015 where I like bulked for like almost 2 years, and I got up to like 250 pounds. And then I dieted down. It took me about 7 months. I systematically did it, controlled my calories, tracked my macros, tracked my protein, carbs, fats, and systematically lost 1 to 2 pounds per week.
So you chose to gain up to 250.
Yeah,
you were
so
naturally
I've been in all
beforehand.
spectrums. Like I'm naturally skinny.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna get fat as an experiment.
Yeah.
Did it, and then I was like, all right, now I'm gonna lose the weight. And then all I did was just track my calories, like the same food every single day.
Yeah.
Went to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, and everything was controlled, and it got done. Was it monotonous? Of course. Was it boring?
No,
Of
yeah,
course.
I agree with you there. I am naturally this way. This is with working out 4 or 5 times
That's
a week.
not true.
It's 100% true, bro.
Nah, bro.
No,
Come to the gym with
it's
me.
not.
This is me
It's not
working out.
natural at all, because at the end of the day, if you don't lose weight, by definition, you're not in a calorie deficit. If you're not in a calorie deficit, then you're gonna either maintain or gain weight, and that's the problem is that people don't track their calories.
And that's true, but people burn at their resting metabolic rate a different set of calories.
Doesn't matter.
So we have 4 people here, a fit white guy, a fit black guy, a fat black guy, and a fat white guy. And so I feel like this fat white guy is actually making an excuse. Like I said before, I don't think the guy in dreads, the fat black guy, was making an excuse. But when I look at what this fat white guy is saying, it seems like an excuse to me. He's technically not wrong. People do have different basal metabolic rates and they burn calories at different rates. But when I see him talking about it, I see excuses. I see complaining, I see not taking responsibility, and I see the victim mentality.
Okay, so the reason I disagreed, especially when I heard the statement, I don't think I'll ever look at somebody based on their situation and think that I'm disgusted. Like, if I see somebody that's a drug addict on the street that's homeless, I'm not disgusted by that. If I see somebody that's incredibly overweight, I'm not disgusted by that. Do I think that there's an opportunity for growth? Do I think they've been put in a disadvantageous position that's probably makes it harder for them? Absolutely. I think I'm kind of an empath, so when I see somebody, I know that there's things underlying, and one of my best friends is 400 plus pounds. I've helped him lose 150, 200 pounds. He's gained it back. And I don't look at him and say, I'm disgusted, but I know how bad he wants it. And just seeing how hard he tries and then reverts, it's almost more tough for me than to be like, oh, that's disgusting, you know? And I think there's plenty of people that look at me and say, that's disgusting. I never want to look like that. So like, I know what it feels like on the other side to like look the way I do and get people look at me like, ugh, that's gross to like have that muscle. And to go back to that point, like you came from a fit place and like deciding to bulk, like that's a conscientious decision to gain weight. Like you already have those habit routines and skills in order to stay in shape. And then you use those same skills you had to pull back on the calories and knowledge you had.
The reason why I use that example is that you can get fat and lose the weight if you know what you're doing and you have the knowledge and everything else like that. It's just about consistency over time. So it's like, I look at it like—
let me cut you off, because here's one thing that you just said.
Yeah.
You had the tools. So there's people that don't have the tools that you've passed judgment on, and you have failed to realize that with the tools, people are very much capable of achieving amazing things. But
okay, let's talk about set
no,
tools.
hold
then.
on, I'm not done.
Why you cut me off
I'm
before,
not done.
remember?
And I stood over there and I listened to you, and I was like, it's a ton of bullshit too.
Sure.
But we're gonna address this, right?
Yeah.
You are passing judgment on people who lack the tools to do what it is that they need to do to get themselves to a certain point of health. There are multitudes of factors that weighs into what goes on with somebody's body. There are people that even if they work out, losing the weight does not come as simple as just going to the gym, cutting calories, watching everything that you eat. There are some people that have a disposition. I have a disposition. But does that mean that I'm not active? Does that mean that I'm not doing certain things? No, it doesn't. But you're passing judgment on somebody's body that you know nothing about.
I am not buying what this guy is selling. Of course, you can make judgments on people and on fat people. Like I said before, you just eat too much. It's that simple. Don't tell me about some kind of disposition. So this guy is really starting to sound like a victim. And one of the hallmarks of a victim is disempowerment coupled with external locus of control. And what external locus of control means is you attribute things happening to outside of you. An internal locus of control would be, it's my fault and my responsibility. So you blame other things are responsible for what's going on. And that's what I see this guy saying. Sure, there are medical conditions like thyroid issues and other things that I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, but for 99% of the fat people out there, I'm willing to bet that.
You just like eating, don't you?
Let's move on.
Let's talk about, let's hit the first part, tools. What are the tools? The tools are simply knowledge, which you can get for free on the internet. If you have the ability and the discipline to go out there and get the knowledge, then you're gonna lose weight. It's just that simple. It's just that people wanna always make excuses for why, oh, my feelings, oh, I don't know what, you don't know what people are going through, blah, blah, blah. No, you can watch your calories, you can go to the gym, you have time to do it. People just like to make excuses.
I don't think anyone's debating that weight loss is impossible here. I think the question is, why do you hate fat people, that you feel the disgust towards it?
Well, like I said before, it's a culmination of a bunch of bad decisions. I'm not gonna go ahead and give the same level of respect to someone who's a fat ass to someone that has worked really hard and diligently on their physique, because your body's outward manifestations
There's more
of your decisions,
factors to a
your
human
consistency.
being than their body.
Well, you could judge a lot just off of someone's physique. You'd be like, okay, well, this guy is lazy. And that's personified through their physique. It's the truth.
Abe, I saw you wanted to say something.
Just to take it back to the prompt, I think we just kind of went all over the place there.
Yeah. We're still focusing on the word disgust.
Just the word disgust. I mean, I would never look at someone and show disgust towards them. I mean, I think I would respect, like you said. I mean, you don't respect everyone, like you said, but I think...
Respect is earned.
I mean, it is earned, but I mean, I think at a humane level, we can learn to appreciate each other's differences.
Yeah, I don't know if like disgust would be the right word, right?
I know.
Greg mentioned some health implications with being overweight or obese.
Yeah.
I think being concerned might be a better.
That's the word I was going to go
better
for.
word.
Like I can show concern for someone for the way that they are, but I would never look at someone and say like, you're disgusting.
But is it any different than if you see somebody who's extremely anorexic, they're 50 pounds, you look at them, you're in shock, oh my God, like something happens in your body you can't control. You can't stop that. Like how can you not? It's not, I don't hate them.
That's different.
It's just, wow, oh my God, it's like, it's disgusting. Like, holy goodness
But
gracious.
why
shock
would you
factor,
use
though.
the word
That's
disgusting,
not
right?
disgusting.
So you just mentioned the polar opposite of what we are, right? But why would you look at them and be disgusted versus concerned? That is a very specific word, and it has very specific connotations behind it. And when it's used, it's somewhat weaponized as well.
I don't think we can help how we feel. I don't think I can choose like, oh, I just am not. It would be sitting here and lying. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I'm always gonna be honest with people. I'm disgusted. This is just how I feel.
I'm in total agreement with Greg here. This is Greg, if you don't know him. He's a YouTuber and a bodybuilder, and I've seen some of his content before, but he's not being mean when he says that he's disgusted by fat people. I think that it's just a very natural reaction. We're not trying to be mean when we have this reaction, but like he says, it just happens and he's just being honest. And I agree with him. It's the very same reaction when you see someone who is extremely skinny, or if you see someone that has been horribly disfigured, or if you see someone that had a ton of plastic surgery and is starting to no longer look like a human being. It's that very same reaction. And I believe that human beings are just programmed this way. You don't believe me? Look at the most honest people in our society. Children. What do they say about fat people?
The thing is, when you see a fat person, the reason why it's disgusting and the reason why there's so much pushback on this whole body positivity and people make fun of Lizzo, rightfully so by the way, is because it's unattractive, it's unhealthy. Until we had this woke era, they used to put like models and attractive people on the cover of magazines that were in shape. Why? So that people can aspire to look like that. And it's healthy and it looks better in general. You look good, feel good. But when you're fat, it says a lot about you. People aren't gonna sit there and be like, let me see if he's a good person. No, they're just gonna assume that you're lazy, which you are by the way when you're fat, and you don't have discipline, which you are by the way. So they're just gonna assume off of what they see. That's the world that we live in.
I love how you stated a shit ton of assumptions. You didn't state not one fact. You just stated assumptions.
I want to move on to the next prompt, but we're
Could
definitely.
I say one thing? Just one question.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you knew he used to be 600 pounds, and how much you weigh now?
I'm 384.
And now he's 384. Do you see him as less disgusting knowing he's lost 220 pounds?
No, that's fantastic.
I
but
think yes,
there's still
less.
work to be done. But here's the thing, like I said before, unfortunately, human beings judge a book by its cover. It's just the world that we live in. Fat people that identify as 97 genders, whatever, they expect us to change our worldview for them, and that's just not how the world works. Like it's been that way. It's always going to be that way.
Worldview? That's
All right,
I think what I don't get.
It's just the
we
world
gotta
that we're in.
reset.
Like people are gonna,
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, my bad.
I know. It sounds really, really harsh. But once again, if you look at what he's saying, he's not wrong. Anyway, this was a very interesting conversation. I have to say, I kind of side with the fit people over the fat people. Overall, being fat is not good for you. It's not good for you physically. It's not good for you mentally and emotionally. So ideally, we wouldn't be fat. But everyone has an automatic explanation for things. And so in this discussion, I thought it was very telling, someone like Myron's explanation, his narrative of why people are fat. They're lazy, they lack discipline. Those types of things are very common when we think about fat people. And I don't think that it's wrong, but you know what? There is no one explanation that can explain something for all people. People are so individual and nothing applies to everybody. Do you know what I think as a mental health professional when I see someone really, really fat? And I'm not talking about the fat white guy who, when I look at him, I just think, okay, this guy enjoys pizza and beer. When I look at this fat black guy, someone who is really, really fat, this is what I tend to think. I tend to think that he endured some kind of trauma, and I tend to lean toward it being sexual in nature. And the reason why I think that is I've seen it many, many times in clients. I've worked with a lot of abused children and people. And one thing that happens is they go through great lengths in their mind, and a lot of times it's unconscious, to avoid experiencing that trauma again. And one of those things is becoming unattractive so that the person that would want to abuse you again would not do that. And what does that include? Getting really fat. It includes becoming incontinent. It includes having really, really poor hygiene. But that is a thing. And so if that is the explanation as to why someone is fat, telling them to go to the gym and look up how to track your macros and eat right would actually cause intense fear in them. So is that an excuse to be fat? No. I don't believe in excuses, and I don't believe in the victim mentality. So there is no excuse to be fat, but simply it's an explanation. And so what do we do with that explanation? What we do is we acknowledge that there are powerful psychological reasons as to why people behave a certain way. And if that's you, address the trauma. There are ways in which you can overcome that. And like I said, I've seen it many, many times. You overcome it, and then you can move on to not being fat and to being fit. So there's a way. I know that it's not easy, but it's possible. I believe the human mind is so incredibly amazing and powerful. You can practically be anything that you want to be. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you guys have something interesting you want me to react to, please leave it in the comments down there. I'll see you next time.